Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I just got back from Indiana, and I was out there to see some family and friends, and then also I wanted to check out the International Firefighters Convention, just to get a better handle on, some of the things that firefighters go through. So I currently work with 3 fire departments, and it's been there for a little over a year. Things are going really well, and just trying to, go to more trainings, talk with more firefighters, and learn more about their things they have to deal with and go through, and things of that nature. But anyway, there is. So at this conference, there was over the course of 5 days, there was 46,000 firefighters, support staff, chiefs, all that stuff over the course of the 5 days. And there were a lot of firefighters who are clinically obese, which is concerning. Not just for themselves, but for the community as a whole. So there are a handful of things that we use to dictate, or we say with a high degree of confidence, someone's likelihood of dying, or what's their likelihood of mortality. So there's a top 4, which I'll cover in just a moment, but there's some concerning research from Dr. J. Dawes down at Oklahoma State, and he's probably one of the world leaders, as far as I'm aware of, when it comes to tactical fire and police research. But he released a paper a couple years ago, and here's the concerning part, is the average firefighter dies between 45 and 55 years of age. And why is that? Well, a handful of things are going on. Number 1, irregular sleep schedule. Number 2, extremely high levels of stress. You got some post-traumatic stress going on. These folks have to see and deal with just awful things, everything from car crashes to cardiac events to family freaking out. It's a lot. And then within that, there's a stigma of, not talking to people, not getting help, and all this stuff. So that carries its own host of problems. But so in addition to that, we've got the sleep schedule, the irregular sleep schedule, high stress. We've got poor nutrition. Guys catch a lot of flack for wanting to eat healthy and actually take care of themselves. And then, they're gassed, and they don't want to have a formal, a lot of them don't and won't follow a formal training session or cycle because emotionally they're exhausted from their day, and the last thing they want to do is put out even more, which, when the body's perceiving stress, you can be emotionally drained and be physically tired. So now it's just, well, how do we go about, when I say we, I'm talking about the human performance community. How do we integrate and say, like, hey, here's a holistic way we can approach this and help our local communities. And a lot of it just begins with education and teaching these different departments, whether you're working with tactical fire or police or first responders. How can you help them? Like, what's the lowest hanging fruit, so that you can get them a win, so you can get them feeling good and start building some momentum, and then over time it'll become a cultural norm. So anyway, the 4 big things that we look at as far as predictability of mortality. So number 1, if you're male, you are far more likely to die earlier. There are some rare instances where males may be at a 1-to-1 with female as far as life expectancy, but by and large, it's going to be being male. More likely than not, you're going to die sooner. Number 2 is going to be grip strength. Is a great predictor of likelihood of mortality. Number 3, leg strength. Then number 4 is waist to hip ratio. So these are all things that we can look at, and there's certainly more than that, but as far as I'm concerned, those are the 4 that we have the most control over. So then it becomes a question of, okay, outside of the first one, how do I control my grip strength, leg strength, and waist to hip ratio? It begins with the nutrition piece. What are our hormones saying? What are our sleep schedules looking like? Things like that we can actually control that will yield to more favorable outcomes as far as grip strength, leg strength, and waist to hip ratio. So ways you can measure this stuff is there's a really cheap, all these things are very cheap and very practical. You can get a grip strength device and squeeze it, and actually it'll measure kilograms of force put into that grip strength tool. Then from there, for leg strength, you can just have a simple leg strength exercise such as a front squat and assess your 1 rep max or 3 rep max or whatever. Then waist to hip ratio, we know that if you just go to Google, type in waist to hip ratio, and you'll just need a measuring tape. You'll see the numbers pop out. I can't remember the websites right away, but you'll see the numbers where it's, hey, if your waist to hip ratio is above 1.0, you have X percent higher chance of dying from cardiovascular disease. If it's below, if it's 0.85 or below, here's a different percentage. So that's where we start to get into that apple shape and pear shape as far as, and I think this goes back to, men dying sooner. The apple and the pear is, how body fat is distributed. So for males, they tend to accumulate a lot of fat mass in their stomach region, and that'll be termed an apple, and it will generally get very hard and kind of it'll, lack of a better term, it kind of drapes out over the belt. And I saw a lot of that at the FDIC, and it was really concerning because these are guys that, from a community standpoint, wherever you live, you are relying on these guys if something goes wrong. So how likely are they going to be around if their likelihood of mortality is going up? Secondly, if something goes wrong and I need to be drug out of a burning building, well, what's the likelihood that they have the sufficient leg strength, that they're not going to have a cardiac event, and they have the grip strength to actually pull me out? So, anyway, I would encourage everybody in some capacity to go through and just look at those 3 that we have direct control over. As far as grip strength, leg strength, and waist to hip, and assess where you're currently at. And if you're not happy with it, start making some changes. If you don't know where to start and you need some help, please feel free to shoot me a message, drop me an email, travis@dhbcoaching.net, and I'll help get you on the right track. Have a good day.